Hello, everyone. It's Morgan, and you've reached the Coherence Nexus. Today, I would like to talk about peace. Now, what exactly is peace? Is it a treaty? Is it a law? Is it a culture? Is it a religion? For thousands of years, the human race has been praying for peace. But we never seem to achieve it. In recent days, watching the monks walk for peace on YouTube and on social media, many of us have been moved by the simplicity of their concept of peace. And I began to realize that this thing that we have been chasing after, that we have been praying for, that we have been longing for thousands of years, is more than just a social construct. It's more than a pact we make with our political neighbors. Peace is a choice. It's a decision that we make every single day of our lives. It's a verb, much like love. It's something that we decide to do. So, about 15 years ago, I wrote and self published a fantasy trilogy called Dark Fae. And it was centered around two storylines. One, the atrocities of child soldiers who are typically abducted from their homes and forced to participate in political strife that they want nothing to do with. I came across a story about the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda, who was literally for 20 plus years abducting children from local villages and doing exactly that, forcing them to participate in violent acts against their own people. And the stories of these children and how they recovered with the help of UNICEF and other very loving neighbors stirred this idea inside of me to write a story about that terrible practice. And while I was writing the story, a central hub of the story began to form, and that is the question: how do we achieve peace? Because the premise of the story is based on the whole idea of dark against light, and good fae against bad fae, and there's a whole beautiful story there. But the basic underlying theme is, how do we achieve peace? And while I was writing that story, the answer came: we achieve peace by becoming peace. We have to first embody what it is that we want. And that energy of choice ripples outward. So here we are 15 years later. And about a year ago, this self-published story was picked up by a traditional publisher. And I have embarked on a educational journey into the whole premise of revision, deepening the complexities and the inner workings and motivations of, of characters, and learning how to write literally 5 different storylines at once into one story. But I also began to understand this whole concept of peace and what it is. See, in the story, there's battles and there's magic and there's a lot of inner turmoil as the characters themselves come to realize that peace is something we have to choose to do. it's not something that is an external force that brings us peace. It isn't a treaty between two powerful political opponents or two countries or different races that exist in the world or different religions. It's not simply people saying, okay, we're going to abide by a peace treaty now, and we're not going to come and break down your door in the middle of the night and drag you away. So now here we are in 2025 and 2026, where these things are happening right in our own country, right on our own doorstep. And millions of us are shaken to our core by the atrocities that are happening right here in our own country and around the world. Violence seems to be proliferating at an exponential rate. And many of us feel so helpless. We long for peace. We just want to get along with our neighbors. Why can't we do that? But we are missing the point. And I think the part of the reason the walk for peace, the journey of these wonderful monks, the story of these monks has touched us, I think partially because they have really begun to educate us on what peace is. They chose to undertake a perilous journey, um, a 1,300-mile walk during the coldest time of the year. And they didn't make that decision by chance. They chose that timing because they knew it would be difficult. And it was an opportunity to illustrate through their actions what mindfulness and what a purpose for peace looks like. So, the venerable monks have taught us that every day we need to wake up, and before we look at our phone, before we dive into our work for the day, we need to take a few minutes to focus on loving ourselves and giving ourselves the peace that we are so hungry for. We nourish our body and our spirit with that decision to be peaceful. Now that's all well and good, and it sounds simple enough. You wake up in the morning and you write yourself a little note that says, I'm going to be peaceful today. And you say it a couple of times and then you walk out the door. But if you don't change everything else about your day, then your day isn't going to change. See, peace is a decision. It's more than just an idea. It's more than just a metaphysical premise. It's more than a social construct. It begins right here. It begins inside of us with a decision to act and to embody peace. So at first we have to kind of understand what peace is. What does peace mean to us? Does it mean that when we get on the metro in the morning and that person who's sitting there playing their music at an obnoxious level, instead of giving them a dirty look and moving somewhere else into the train, maybe peace begins with understanding that maybe the only reason they're listening to their music at a really crazy level is because something horrible happened in their morning. Maybe the only way they can get through their day is by self-medicating with their music. That gives them a sense of control, that gives them a sense of peace, it gives them a sense of continuity in their life. Maybe instead of driving to work and participating in roadway rage and being an aggressive driver and cursing at all the other drivers that go past us or cut us off or are going so slow in front of us. Come on. Instead of reacting to that situation with negative energy, we embody peace. We know we're going to get there. And being angry at all of the people that are around us only makes them angry too. Because road rage and negative emotions in general are contagious to a fault. Maybe the whole idea of peace is that we treat others as we would like to be treated. Because isn't that the golden rule? Isn't that what all of our most illustrious leaders and spiritual advisors have been teaching us for thousands of years? Do unto others. To love your neighbor as yourself. The whole concept of karma, of yin and yang, of balance in nature. You know, even Einstein said for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So when we go out into the world with anger and rage and impatience and frustration, when we arrive at our desk, the very first minute we're there, we haven't even put our things down and we haven't even taken our coat off yet, and we have coworkers coming to us with crises, instead of responding to them with, I just got here. Peace is, I see that you are passionate about this, and we're going to work through this and figure it out in about 5 minutes. I'm going to come over to your desk once I get settled, and we're going to talk about it. Isn't that a better way to deal with that situation? You know, maybe instead of reacting to all the external stimuli that's out there that's urging us to be hateful or angry or outraged or frustrated, because there's a lot of it, you know, instead of going onto social media in the morning and scrolling through all the chaff and reposting as many angry posts as we can and adding our own angry spin on it, maybe peace begins with an idea that today is my peaceful day, as the monks have taught us. Maybe peace begins right here with a decision to do our utmost to treat others the way we would like to be treated. Not by going to their door and kicking in their door and invading their home and dragging people away. Not by scrolling through social media and reposting as many angry posts as we can find. Not by grumbling about our neighbors or our coworkers or our family members, but by deciding that today, just today, this one day, I am going to respond to people with empathy, with kindness, with patience. Now, is that easy? No, it is not easy. That's where mindfulness comes in. That's where having a practice of meditation or prayer or yoga or qigong or some other external source that helps us develop our sense of peace comes in. And in the coming days, we're going to explore these options for em- imbuing ourselves, with peace so that we can be peace. But today I just wanted to present the idea and help us all to understand, myself included, because it took me 15 years to get here after writing the story and posting it all over social media and talking about how do we achieve peace unless we become peace. I finally got it. I finally understand that choice begins with me. A single drop of water in an ocean. But if there's enough drops of water in that ocean, we can affect change. Because imagine if not only I go out into the world every day with a decision to treat people kindly and with respect and include them and not look outwardly and point fingers and say, well, you don't fit my mold, or you're the wrong religion, or you're the worst political party there is. Maybe peace begins by saying, today I am going to embody what I believe peace is. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to smile instead of sneer. I'm going to notice other people's struggles. I'm going to be mindful of the fact that not everybody expresses their pain in the same way I do. And through that first step, of which there are many in the journey, just like revising a story, we can begin to affect change and make the world a better place. So I hope that maybe this has brought a little bit of bing idea to your brain. Maybe this will help you and me to become the people we always want to be. Until next time, when we're going to dive deeper into some practices that we can choose to help embolden our peace, to help us embody peace. Until then, peace be with you.